Okay, guys, we're back with Dr. Group. Dr. Group, preparing this interview. As you know how law of attraction works, preparing this interview, I was trying to program what we're going to talk about, and I received 2 new studies done on the following. Just the title alone is going to tell you everything you need to know about the study, but one of the studies says the air you breathe is making you fat. And a researcher from Duke University placed 2 groups of rats in separate chambers. One group was exposed to Beijing's super toxic air. That city has some of the worst air pollution in the world, according to the study. The second group breathed filtered air. The 2 groups ate exactly the same diet. After 19 days, the rats exposed to the air pollution were 18% fatter.
Well, I've been talking about that for a long time, actually, how the air, you know, it's easy to see the things that are physical that you're putting in, the hamburgers and the hot dogs and stuff like that. The real scary thing are the things you can't see. And there's 2 major problems I see with that right now, and that's the chemicals in the air that we're breathing, and the second thing is the radiation that we're being exposed to from the leak at Fukushima and all the leaking nuclear reactors all over the world. Those are 2 things that you can't see, feel, or hear, but that are some of the most dangerous things, considering the fact that you take 30,000 breaths every single day. A common cigarette contains over 4,000 chemicals, including ammonia, butane, arsenic, benzene. In the last 10 years, respiratory disease in the U.S. has moved from 8th to the 3rd highest cause of death. Asthma rates have doubled, practically tripled in the Western world, and Alzheimer's is caused by aluminum poisoning, which they're spraying in the air with the chemtrails right now, has also skyrocketed with dementia. So we know that in different areas, researchers have found up to 35 different carcinogenic chemicals in the air that we're breathing. And not only that, we're seeing high levels of, we're even seeing fungus in the air now. We're seeing mold spores in the air, contributing to depression. We really have a really bad situation with the air that's going on, and that's not even talking about indoor air. Indoor air can be 10 times as toxic as outdoor air. And since the average American, at least, spends about 90% of their time indoors, whether they're at work or they're at home, this is a real serious condition. Scientists just recently actually identified over 1,000 types of mold and mildew inside houses in the United States.
You know,
so then you have to take in the factor that how many people have pets and they have dust mites and dust mite waste and allergy symptoms and people sleeping on toxic bedding, which is releasing volatile organic compounds into the air, and then the fragrances like we talked about. So you're right, air pollution and air problem is one of the first things that we talk about with our individuals and say, listen, one of the things you're going to need to do as soon as you can is to clean up the air inside your house and put air purification systems in so you can breathe clean air.
At least. You know, the other study that it was posted on naturalnews.com, which we know it's Mike's website, just the title will tell you everything. It says, air pollution now so bad that pregnant women are being told to move to the countryside to avoid increased risk of stillbirth. So that's...
Yep. Yeah. There's 35 million people in the U.S. alone that have some sort of chronic lung disease. I've seen personally a nonstop rise in respiratory illness to the point where it's an epidemic right now. I would say probably 8 out of 10 people suffer from some respiratory illness at least 2 or 3 times a year. And most people still have decreased lung function because of it, because of all these things that they're breathing in. 50% of all illness is associated or aggravated by indoor air pollution too. So even if you have headaches or some sort of illness, or you're suffering from some symptoms and you have indoor air toxicity, that can make your symptoms worse or even cause additional symptoms, because with air, that goes directly into your lungs. These chemicals go directly, these outgassings go directly into your lungs, and that goes directly into your bloodstream immediately. Not like when you put things in through your mouth, like food and beverages, which have to be broken down by enzymes and then broken down even more in your digestive system, and all of that is taken care of before it goes into the bloodstream, even though we now have leaky gut syndrome and damage to the bowel, where we're still kind of seeing the same thing. But I would say right now, on average, probably 8 out of 10 homes and 8 out of 10 buildings in the United States are sick, and that means that they're hazardous to your health, and that's because of airborne pollutants.
Dr. Group, talking about immediate solutions, I highly recommend people Allertrex. I highly recommend people high doses of vitamin C. My preferred form is camu powder. I highly recommend people to use serrapeptase, at least initially, because it helps break down a lot of gases that are stuck in the lungs. But when I recommend Allertrex to my people, my friends, my family, I always tell them this thing. You let me know if I'm kind of correct. I always say, you know what? I figure out Dr. Group going out of his house one morning or out of the office, taking a deep breath out of the door and said, what the hell is this? Let me come back. A couple of months later, here, use this. It will help you deal with this toxicity.
Right. So the reason I even developed Allertrex was because of the chemtrails that were being sprayed in the air, and because I've seen and because the increased calls that we've had. We always know when something's happening around the world because we always get a lot of phone calls about it. And so we can usually predict, the avian flu or Zika, whatever it is out there, we usually find out first. One thing, like I said, that's been on the rise for the last 10 years is respiratory, and I know a lot of that has to do with the chemtrails, and if you're not familiar with chemtrails, those are the approved distribution of aluminum nanoparticles, but not only nanoparticles being sprayed in the air to combat what they're saying is global warming. So it's supposed to block the UVA and the UVB rays and cool the earth. We know now that that's just a facade, or just what they're telling us, and that's not what's really going on. What's really going on is they're spraying ethylene dibromide, which is toxic to the respiratory system. It was banned as a pesticide for causing severe respiratory reactions, even at low levels. We know that they're spraying numerous pathogens in the air, disease-causing agents. We know that they're releasing JT8.
Which I'm guessing that's the reason. Besides the bacteria and the aluminum, that you went over to put in the Allertrex, a small portion but powerful one of the toxidine.
Right. So the reason we wanted to develop Allertrex was so people could use a respiratory support, and it's designed to be an anti-inflammatory, but it's also designed to be an expectorant and to neutralize any type of chemicals and to help repair the tissues in the bronchial as well as the lungs. So people use that all the time now for allergies and asthma, and just because I was being affected. I mean, I could definitely notice that I was having more respiratory problems, and I have air purification systems in my office and in my home, but because I fly and because I go to different areas and because I like to be outside. I'm a very active person outside. I don't like to be indoors.
And you guys... Yeah, you guys literally live in the forest. I mean, Texas is built around the forest. So you guys are supposed to have a superior quality of air compared to another places, and you still were having these problems.
Yes, I mean, it is. We have trees all around us, which is great, and we're constantly planting more. But I wanted to give people the opportunity to be able to cleanse their lungs, just like they cleanse the inside of their body. No one's ever really come up with a product that cleanses the lungs and the bronchioles, and so that was the creation of Allertrex. I had a chronic producing mucus cough for like 3 months, and I found out what it was later when we found out what they were spraying during mosquito season. They were driving trucks around by our homes and spraying extremely toxic pesticides into the air that were accumulating all over our grass and our mailbox, and it was literally melting mailboxes around Houston.
Wow.
And so that went on, and we finally tracked it down. So I knew that in the future, and I know now that we have to deal with what we're breathing in. And so Allertrex is basically the solution for cleansing your lungs and keeping your lungs clean and active and strong on a regular basis.
From my experience, what I can say, I don't know about the people that are using your product through us because we don't get a lot of reviews. But what I can tell you is I use literally every single day Allertrex, and it always helps me encapsulate what I'm breathing currently, because it's like a plasma that forms, and then I'm spitting all day. If I don't use Allertrex one day, I don't do that. So it's not mucus like when you eat dairy, or it forms when you eat meat. It's not that type of a mucus. It's like a plasma that encapsulates the toxicity. I don't know if you notice that with you.
Yes, I do. I love that too. That's
Yes.
one of the things that I like about it, because I know it's almost catching all those toxins and grabbing them, and then I can, just expectorant those right out of my system instead of having to worry about them being absorbed directly through the lungs.
I just want to say, because people don't relate until they hear some stories that they are trying to results they're trying to look for. But one of the things that I notice is I can last 4 minutes holding my breath. And other things that I can do is I can go in my classes with my Sifu, and I can go 2-hour classes training Jeet Kune Do, which is one of the most extreme martial arts there are. And I have no problem finishing the class and finish it right. And I want to thank you for the Allertrex, because it's an essential key component of me being able to do that.
We've gotten a lot of response actually from professional athletes that use it before, and it increases their oxygen concentration, their ability to breathe better, to hold their breath. It's definitely has a positive effect on opening up the bronchioles, reducing inflammation, healing. Even singers and people that talk a lot use it. We have a lot of children that just love it too. That children are very susceptible because their lungs are growing, and that's why we have an epidemic also with children's allergies, not only because of the GMOs and the gluten and all the other stuff, but they're just more sensitive to everything, and especially the air and sinus problems. So it's great to use, and it's safe to use for children too, to kind of help support and help the growth of new healthy lung tissue and bronchial tissue.
And obviously, the greatest detoxifier, healer, and safest substance of them all is oxygen. And you guys have your number one product to go to. It's Oxy-powder.
Yes, and because all of the chemicals and toxins are going to enter into the intestinal lining. I mean, the majority of, yes, we talked about air, and we know that people that rub sunscreen or lotions or things like that are going to absorb chemicals, toxic chemicals and substances into their skin. But we also, through evaluation, realized that about 90%, or maybe even close to 95%, of the most toxic chemicals and toxins that people are exposed to on a daily basis are going to be through the things that they're ingesting, through the food and through the beverages and the energy drinks and the alcohol they're drinking, and all of the genetically modified foods and the gluten and the high fructose corn syrup. And all of these synthetic processed foods that they're eating, and even if they have a microwave and they're using the microwave, they're getting extreme levels of BPA and BPS and plasticizers and fragrances and phthalates, also in the plastics that they're heating the food in, as well as the Teflon-coated pans and the toxic cookware. So we know the majority of the chemicals and toxins that are causing the symptoms and diseases are coming in through the mouth. So it only makes sense to focus on and then coming down and damaging the bowel and creating leaky gut syndrome through burning holes in the bowel's lining. So when we were addressing the root cause of disease, and we knew that the intestines were the main focal point or the main cause of where all these chemicals and toxins are coming in, the next thing we found is that most people were constipated and weren't having 2 to 3 bowel movements a day. They were having 2 to 3 bowel movements a week. So we realized that if you're not having regular bowel movements, the proteins are going to turn putrefactic, the fats are going to turn rancid, the carbohydrates are going to ferment, and not only that, you're going to have all these chemicals and toxins in the system. So we knew that the first priority that we needed to do was to cleanse the intestines, cleanse the colon, and repair that, because that is associated with every single organ in the body, and clean intestines with good probiotics are your life force right there. That's going to be the first step that needs to be taken care of. So we couldn't. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I only have about 2 minutes left, Dr. Group. And kudos to you, because Oxy-powder, you told me last time that I was there with you in the office, you told me that your product, you tested it, and at least 16 hours after the person takes the capsules, the oxygen is still working, is still performing in the intestines, going into the bloodstream, oxygenating, oxidizing the toxins so they can be released. So I don't know of any other products that are oxygen-based that do that. And your product is also the only one that has gone through the 3 phases of safety approval by the FDA. So, wow. So I hope... I hope to get you.
It's the best product out there.
I hope to get you again, Dr. Group, because always we can go on hours talking and it won't be enough. So thank you very much. Thank you very much for your time. I knew you have a busy schedule. We took about 6 weeks programming this interview, so that it speaks a lot. So I appreciate it very much, your help, and I'll call you in a couple of minutes if that's okay with you.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Wow. Wow y super mega wow. Espero que hayan escuchado, espero que hayan entendido. Las personas que no entiendan muy bien el inglés, como les dije, pueden hacer uso de los subtítulos que tenemos, que pueden activar en YouTube. Las personas que hablan inglés, pues entonces van a poder aprovechar todas las pepitas de oro que el Dr. Group nos haya compartido. Y nuevamente, como mencionábamos en la entrevista, ¿no? A medida que tenemos estos niveles de contaminación, a medida que tenemos todos estos contaminantes en el aire, tanto que como leí los 2 artículos, dice, el aire que estás respirando te está tornando obeso, imagínate. Y otro de los estudios decía, la contaminación del aire está tan tóxica que inclusive mujeres embarazadas están siendo recomendadas que se vayan al campo para que eviten el riesgo de un defecto de nacimiento, inclusive llegar a perder a la criatura, ¿no? Pero en fin, es wow, ¿no? Espero que lo vean las veces que tengan que ver esta entrevista, porque obviamente no se puede obtener todo a la misma vez y lo estén repase. Y nuevamente, ¿no? Lo de los productos que hablamos, entre muchos de la gama que tiene el Dr. Group, hablamos del Oxy-powder, que es oxígeno, es la forma sumamente más poderosa y más efectiva y más segura de cómo desintoxicarse de pies a cabeza. Y a la misma vez hablamos de Allertrex, ¿no? Y el cual personalmente utilizo literalmente todos los días por los beneficios que me da en mi capacidad de recuperación muscular, en mi habilidad de terminar mis rutinas, ¿no? En fin, chicos, era todo por el día de hoy. Sigo emocionado. Y pues nos vemos la próxima semana, el próximo lunes, en un programa más de Hugo Robin Radio. Se despide Tito, amigo en la salud y en la excelencia humana. Hugo Robin, hasta luego.